Ever feel like you're just dragging, like your body's running on fumes, even when you're trying to do all the right things?
Oh, tell me about it. It's like that feeling never goes away sometimes.
Exactly. And you're not alone, right? So today we're doing a deep dive on metabolic health.
Ooh, good topic.
And we're going deep with Dr. Casey Means.
I like
Yeah.
her.
She's a surgeon turned metabolic health, like, guru.
Yes, she knows what's up.
She really does. And she was recently on both the Huberman Lab podcast and the Joe Rogan Experience.
Oh, wow. Very different vibes.
Very different, but both really fascinating conversations with her.
What stood out to you?
Well, she uses this analogy of our bodies being like cars rolling off the assembly line, right? But with faulty wiring.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah, it's not that we're broken, it's that something's off in the basic setup.
Interesting. Yeah.
And she says this impacts a whopping 93.2% of American adults.
93.2%. So basically all of us.
Practically everyone, yeah. I don't know about you, but that was a bit of a wake-up call for me.
For sure, for sure. So how does this faulty wiring actually show up? Like, what are the symptoms?
Well, think about all those like nagging issues people deal with,
Yeah.
fatigue,
Yeah.
brain fog, weight gain, trouble sleeping.
Yep.
It's like they're all connected, right?
Totally. They're all symptoms of that deeper dysfunction.
Exactly, like that check engine light in your car. It could be a million things.
Right, but it's usually bad news.
Exactly. And this is where Dr. Means gets into the science of it all, talking about these things called mitochondria.
Mitochondria. Haven't heard that word in a while.
Yeah, they're basically these tiny powerhouses inside our cells, and they're responsible for converting foods to energy.
Okay, so our energy factories, I'm listening.
Right, and what's so wild is how sensitive they are to, well, everything, it seems.
Everything. Like what?
Well, Dr. Means pointed to 7 key areas where modern life really messes with them, and our diets are a big one.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Processed foods, sugary drinks, all that stuff.
Yeah. The good stuff. No, but seriously, it's like we know this.
But we still do it.
Exactly.
And it's like trying to fuel a Ferrari with, I don't know, cheap gas. Exactly.
So it's not just what we eat, though, right? I mean, we've all had those days where we're eating really healthy but still feeling run down.
Right, and she talks about that too, like sunlight is a big one, and sleep.
Oh, sleep for sure.
Managing stress levels. It's like our bodies need that balance.
Totally. That natural rhythm we've totally messed up.
Yeah, and our mitochondria are paying the price. It's like we're living in this constant state of fight or flight.
Always on the go.
Exactly, and we're going to dive deeper into these 7 areas and what we can actually do about them.
Okay, good.
But first, I have to ask you, have you ever heard of how ultra-processed foods can actually, like, hijack our biology?
Wait, what? Really? Tell me more.
Yeah,
Oh.
so it's not just about willpower. It's literally messing with our brain chemistry.
Okay, now that is terrifying.
Right. And she explained how these foods, they lack the fiber that our gut bacteria need. And
Oh, the gut microbiome.
yes, exactly. And that imbalance, it can lead to more cravings.
Oh, so it's a vicious cycle.
Totally. It's like our bodies are literally screaming for nutrients.
But we're giving them junk.
Exactly.
It's kind of like, I don't know, our bodies are still stuck in the Stone Age, but our food is like from the future.
Uh-huh. Yeah, it's like a mismatch.
Exactly.
And then we wonder why we struggle with our weight and just feeling good.
Right. But the good news is she seems to think a lot of this is reversible.
It's good to hear because it can get pretty doom and gloom with this stuff.
Totally. So, to recap, we've got faulty wiring, tiny powerhouses that are freaking out,
And a food environment that's working against us.
but there's hope.
There is, and that's where we'll pick up in part 2.
You know, it's easy to get overwhelmed with all this information.
Oh, absolutely. Where do we even begin?
Right. Like, it can feel like we're fighting a losing battle here.
Totally.
But what I appreciate about Dr. Means is she's all about solutions, like practical steps we can take.
Okay, so less doom and gloom. More like, here's your toolbox.
Exactly. And it's not about, like, overhauling your entire life overnight.
Right, because who can stick to that?
Exactly. It's the small, sustainable changes that really add up over time.
Okay, so let's get into it. Where do we even begin to repair this faulty wiring?
Well, she says a good starting point is those 7 key areas we talked about earlier, the diet, the lack of sleep.
Right, the chronic stress, it's like modern life, basically.
Exactly. So she suggests kind of tackling these one by one, like checking off boxes.
Okay, I like that. So it's like giving our body some TLC.
Exactly.
So what would be like at the top of that checklist for people?
She's a big proponent of really prioritizing real food.
Okay, so what does that mean in practical terms?
So, Colorful vegetables, fruits, healthy fats, lean protein sources.
Got it. So basically, ditch the processed stuff.
As much as you can, yeah. And it's not always easy. I get it.
No, especially in our busy lives. It's like, who has time to cook gourmet meals every day?
Right. But even small changes can make a difference, like swapping out sugary drinks for water.
Okay, easy enough.
Or instead of reaching for chips, grab some nuts or cut up veggies.
Okay, so it's about being mindful, making smarter choices.
Exactly. And don't forget about movement.
Oh, right, exercise.
Yeah, but it doesn't have to be intense. Even just aiming for 7,000 steps a day can make a big difference.
7,000 steps, that's doable.
Right, especially if you're like taking the stairs more often, parking further away from the store.
Yeah, just incorporating it into your day.
Exactly. And here's another interesting one. Sunlight.
Oh, tell me more.
Yeah, she's a big believer in getting enough sunlight, especially in the morning.
Really? Why is that?
It actually helps regulate our circadian rhythm, which is
Fine.
important for like hormone production, sleep, even our metabolism.
Wow, so just getting some sun can boost our metabolic health.
It can definitely help. And speaking of sleep,
Oh yeah, that's a big one.
huge. It's when our bodies repair and regenerate, like hitting the reset button.
Oh, I always feel better after a good night's sleep.
Right. Aim for 7 to 9 hours a night. It can make a world of difference.
Okay, so we've covered food, movement, sunlight, sleep. What about stress? Because that feels like unavoidable these days.
It is, but it's all about how we manage it.
Okay, so any tips for that?
Well, Dr. Means recommends finding what works for you, whether it's meditation, yoga, spending time in nature.
Yeah, just finding those moments of calm.
Exactly. Even deep breathing throughout the day can help.
Okay, so it's like building in those little de-stressing moments.
Precisely. And now, while lifestyle changes are key, she also talks about the importance of actually understanding our own individual metabolic health.
Okay, how do we do that? Is it just stepping on the scale or?
It's a bit more nuanced than that. She's a big fan of continuous glucose monitors, or CGMs.
CGMs, those are becoming pretty popular.
They are, and for good reason. They can be really eye-opening.
So for people who don't know, what exactly are they?
They're these little devices that track your blood sugar levels in real time.
Oh, interesting. So you can see how your body responds to different foods.
Exactly, and activities, even stress levels.
Wow, that's pretty amazing.
Right, it's like having personalized feedback.
So it takes the guesswork out of it.
Exactly. And beyond CGMs, she also recommends talking to your doctor about getting specific blood tests.
Okay, to assess metabolic health specifically.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
they can give a more complete picture than just your standard cholesterol check.
So it's about being proactive, advocating for yourself.
Exactly. Knowledge is power, right?
It really is amazing to have access to all this information now, to be able to take control of our health like that.
It's like empowering, right? Instead of just feeling lost and hopeless.
Totally. But Dr. Means also gets into some of the tougher stuff in these interviews.
Oh, yeah. Like what?
Well, she talks about the systemic issues that make all this, like, way harder than it should be.
Right. Like it's not always easy to make those healthy choices.
Exactly. And she's not afraid to call out the food industry for putting profits over people.
Yeah, the food environment is tough. Like you walk into the grocery store and it's like a war zone of temptation.
Right. And the marketing is everywhere. It's hard to escape.
It's like they're targeting our brains.
Totally. And it's not just the food industry. She also talks about the healthcare system.
Oh, interesting. What does she say about that?
Well, she's critical of how it's so focused on treating symptoms instead of addressing, like, the root causes.
Right. It's like putting a Band-Aid on a bigger problem.
Exactly. And she thinks we need a shift towards preventative care, focusing on lifestyle changes and early detection.
Makes you wonder how many chronic diseases could be prevented if we just had a different approach.
Right. Imagine if nutrition was prioritized as much as, I don't know, medication.
Totally. Or if doctors had more time to spend with patients, really getting to the bottom of things.
And if healthy food was more accessible and affordable for everyone.
Right. It's like a whole system overhaul that's needed.
It feels like a long shot, but Dr. Means says change is possible when we demand better.
It starts with awareness, right? And then taking action.
Exactly. Whether that's supporting organizations doing good work or just making those conscious choices in our own lives.
It's about recognizing we all have a role to play here.
Totally. And it's not about waiting for someone else to fix it. We can start making those small changes today.
One step at a time, right? Like those little things we talked about, they really do add up.
Like ripples in a pond.
Exactly. And when we prioritize our own health, it's like setting an example for others too.
Right. It's about shifting the collective mindset.
Okay, so as we wrap up this deep dive, where do we go from here?
Well, we've covered a lot, but the main takeaway is knowledge is power.
And you've got to use that knowledge, right? Take action, advocate for yourself, and don't be afraid to challenge the status quo.
We hope this has given you the tools and the motivation to take charge of your metabolic health.
You're not alone in this. And remember, even small changes can make a big difference.
That's right, and thanks for joining us on this deep dive, everyone. We'll catch you next time.